The rain fell in cold sheets, cutting through the silence of the forest like needles through flesh. Trees whispered secrets in the wind, ancient, mournful, and wild. And through the downpour, a man staggered. Blood dripped from his side, dark and thick against his soaked white shirt. His breath came in ragged bursts. Every step a battle. Mud swallowed his boots, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. They were still hunting him. The moon, veiled by clouds, glowed faintly overhead. His body twitched as if resisting a transformation he no longer had the strength to complete. Claws pushed against his fingertips. His teeth ached. His senses screamed. But the beast within stayed chained barely. Ronan. The name echoed in his skull, a whisper he couldn't place. He didn't remember anything else. Not where he came from, not why he was bleeding, only that something or someone wanted him dead. Thunder cracked. He collapsed by the edge of the road. The last thing he saw before the world turned to blackness was a flash of headlights and her. She pulled over without hesitation. Slender and shivering in the rain, she knelt beside him. Her fingers brushed his cheek. "Oh my God," she breathed, her voice shaking. "You're freezing." She smelled like honey in summer wind. Her eyes, wide with concern, searched his face, and something ancient stirred in him. "Mate," the word didn't come from him. It came from the wolf inside. She couldn't explain why she stopped, or why she cared so much for a man whose name she didn't even know. Maybe it was the haunted look in his eyes or the way her soul seemed to recognize him. She barely managed to drag him into her old pickup. His body heavy and burning with fever. His skin was too hot, but his lips were pale. The wounds along his torso had started to close unnaturally fast. She didn't have time to wonder. She drove him straight to her cabin at the edge of the woods, her heart pounding the whole way. "Please don't die on me," she whispered. "Please." He woke sometime near dawn, lying on a threadbare couch, moonlight slanting through the cracked window. His body had healed almost completely, but his memory hadn't returned. She stood over him, wrapped in a robe, clutching a mug of tea. Her auburn hair fell loose over her shoulders, and her gaze was gentle but wary. "You're safe," she said softly. "But you were hurt badly. You should rest." He sat up slowly, voice. "What's your name?" "Emma," a pause. "I don't remember mine." Their eyes locked. And in that stillness, something passed between them. Something primal, raw, faded. Neither of them knew that this night would change their lives forever, that their bond would awaken a prophecy older than the forest itself, that their child would shape the future of a hidden world. All they knew was that for one moment, in a quiet cabin surrounded by wolves and rain, a stranger and a kind girl saw something familiar in each other, something worth risking everything for. Chapter 1. The Wild Thing in the Storm. The storm had rolled in fast, the sky bleeding gray as the first crack of thunder split the silence. Emma pulled her scarf tighter around her neck, her boots crunching over the gravel path leading home. She'd stayed too long at the diner again, closing shift, covering for Leah, who was out with the flu. Her truck was parked where she left it, just off the old forestry road. She reached for the door when a low, strangled sound caught her attention. At first she thought it was the wind. Then she heard it again, a pained grunt, barely human, her breath hitched. "Hello," she called, heart racing. No answer, only the rustle of wet leaves. Emma hesitated. Logic screamed at her to get in the truck and leave, but then she saw it. A shape half buried in the mud just off the trail. A man or what looked like one. She ran toward him without thinking. He was face down, one arm twisted under him, the other bloodied and clawed. His shirt was torn, his jeans soaked and steery with red. When she touched his shoulder, he flinched violently, growling low in his throat. Emma recoiled, but then his eyes opened and she forgot how to breathe. They were silver, not pale, not gray, silver, luminous, even in the shadows, burning with something wild and ancient. He looked at her like he was seeing something sacred. "I won't hurt you," she whispered, though her voice shook. His lips parted, but no words came, only that guttural growl again. Then his body sagged, unconscious. Emma had no idea how she got him into the truck. Adrenaline must have fueled her strength. The stranger was tall and solid, his muscles corded and tight, even in his unconscious state. Every time she touched his skin, she felt a strange warmth spark through her fingers, like static, but deeper. She drove faster than she ever had before. Her cabin sat a mile deep into the woods, an old hunting lodge her father left her before he passed. Isolated, quiet, and perfect for someone who didn't like attention. She hauled him inside, soaked and shivering, and laid him on the couch. Her fingers hovered over the gash on his side, which was already closing. That's when she saw it, his skin knitting back together like time itself was reversing. Emma blinked. What the hell? She'd seen enough horror movies to know what it could mean, but this wasn't a monster. She didn't feel afraid, just drawn, completely irrationally drawn. She touched his hand. It twitched. Hey, she murmured, can you hear me? You're safe. I brought you home. A low hum rolled from his chest. Then so quiet she nearly missed it. Home? She gasped softly. His eyes fluttered again, glowing that eerie silver in the dim light. And for a moment, just one, Emma could swear she saw the faint shimmer of fur ripple over his cheekbones. But when she blinked, it was gone. She stood there in silence, rain tapping gently against the roof, watching a stranger sleep on her couch. Her gut twisted with questions and a strange swelling protectiveness she couldn't explain. Whatever he was, whoever he wasn't safe out there. And he wasn't just anyone. Chapter 2. The wolf sleeps lightly. The fire crackled low in the hearth, casting golden shadows across the room. Emma sat curled on a threadbare armchair, her legs tucked beneath her, a blanket over her lap. Her eyes hadn't left the stranger since she laid him down. He hadn't moved in hours, yet something about him kept her alert. Hess slept like a man accustomed to danger. Tense. Ready. Even unconscious, his body seemed wired to defend itself. Emma studied him. His jaw was square, shadowed with stubble, high cheekbones. A long scar ran from behind his left ear to the base of his throat, faded but brutal. His torso was wrapped in the clean bandages she'd applied, though she knew they weren't needed. The wound had already healed. She should be afraid. Any normal person would be. But instead she felt something else entirely. Fascination. At some point, her eyes grew heavy. She drifted to sleep with the firelight dancing across her face. A growl snapped her awake. She jolted up. The room was dim now. The fire-only embers. The man was no longer on the couch. Her heart pounded. Hello, she called, standing slowly. A creak behind her. She turned and gasped. He stood near the window, bare-chested, the bandages removed, his skin smooth and unscarred. His back was to her, muscles tight beneath skin that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. His eyes, when he turned to look at her, gleamed like a wolf's. Where am I? Hesked, voice low and rough like gravel soaked in honey. My home, she said, trying to sound calm. I found you near the road. You were bleeding, unconscious. His gaze didn't leave her. You brought me here. Yes, I couldn't leave you out there. You were dying. He took a step closer. She held her breath. You shouldn't have done that, he murmured. Something in his tone was warning, but laced with pain, regret. He wasn't angry. He was trying to protect her from something. Emma lifted her chin. What was I supposed to do? Let you bleed out in the woods. Silence pulsed between them. Then something flickered in his expression. Awe, confusion, longing. You smell like warmth, he said as if the words confused him. Like honeysuckle and sunlight. Her lips parted. What's your name? She asked softly. He hesitated. I don't know. A beat passed. The air seemed to still. Then we'll figure it out, she said. You can stay here until you remember or heal or both. His jaw clenched. That's not safe for you. I'm not afraid. You should be. Their eyes locked. And in that moment, something ancient shimmered in the space between them. Invisible threads tightening. Something old. Something faded. Emma swallowed hard, her heart pounded, not from fear, but from the undeniable sense that this man, whoever he was already entangled with her future. Then tell me what I should be afraid of, she whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at her like she was the first light after a long, endless darkness. Chapter 3. The Hunger He Tries to Hide. Ronan woke to the scent of warmth. It wasn't just the blanket draped over his chest or the faint aroma of herbs from the stew Emma had reheated for dinner. It was her, the girl who brought him in from the storm. Her scent was etched into every corner of the cabin, clinging to the wood, to the worn cushions, to his skin. Sweet, wild, familiar, it made something stir deep inside him. Something hungry, ancient, barely leashed. Mate. The word came unbidden again. It was louder this time, sharper. The beast inside him, what little of it remained quiet, was no longer sleeping. He sat on the edge of the couch trying to focus, trying to think. But he couldn't remember anything, no name, no history, just instinct, emotion, heat, and her. The fire had died down again, painting soft shadows on the cabin walls. Emma moved around the tiny kitchen in a pair of wool socks and an oversized sweatshirt that hung off one shoulder. Her hair was tied loosely, a few curls framing her face. She was humming, soft and off-key. Every movement tugged at his control. She turned, startled to find him watching her. "Oh, hey, I didn't hear you wake up. I didn't mean to scare you," he murmured, voice growly. "You didn't. She gave a nervous little laugh. Thought you'd be out longer. Your body went through a lot." He tilted his head slightly, watching her. "Why did you help me?" Emma blinked. "I told you I couldn't just leave you out there." "That's not what I mean." Her brows furrowed. "Then what?" Ronan rose, slow and deliberate. "You brought a bleeding man into your home? A stranger, one who growls in his sleep, heals too fast, who doesn't remember his name." She opened her mouth, then shut it. He stepped closer. The heat between them rose thick with something unspoken. The beast inside him rumbled again close to the surface. "You're not afraid of me," he said, voice low. "Why?" Emma searched his eyes. "Because I don't feel like I should be." Their breaths mingled. He didn't touch her. He didn't dare. But gods, he wanted to. Her nearness tugged at the animal in him like a magnet. Her pulse fluttered at her neck. He could hear it, smell it. "I feel like I've met you before," she whispered. "But I know that's crazy." "It's not," he said so quietly she almost missed it. Their eyes locked. And in that moment, time folded inward. Then suddenly, Ronan turned away. "Don't look at me like that," he muttered. Emma took a step back, confused. "Like what?" "Like you see something good in me." I'm not good, Emma." The way he said her name made her shiver. He faced the window, gripping the sill so hard the wood groaned. "There's something inside me. I feel it moving, watching. It wants to come out." Her voice was soft. "Then let it." His head jerked toward her, eyes glowing faintly now, silver catching in the moonlight. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "You won't. You don't know that. I trust you." He looked at her like she was something holy, untouchable, and that scared him more than anything. Chapter 4. A Shift Beneath the Skin. The morning broke cold and clear. Sunlight filtering through frosted pine needles, casting long beams across the forest floor. Emma stepped outside with a steaming mug in her hands, breathing in the crisp air. The scent of pine smoke and something wild mingled in her lungs. Peaceful but heavy with a strange stillness. Inside the stranger, Ronan slept again, his body still recovering, though not in any human way. His wounds had vanished completely by dawn, his pulse strong and steady. But his dreams were not kind. She'd heard him murmur in his sleep names he didn't know, growls she couldn't unhear. She sipped her tea and tried not to think about how easily he could have hurt her, but hadn't. The forest stirred behind her. A crunch. She turned, heartbeat quickening. A deer, startled, darted through the trees, and something much larger followed behind. It wasn't him. Emma's breath caught as she glimpsed a flash of gray fur weaving through the trees, low to the ground, eyes glowing faintly. Amber. Not Silver, not Ronan, another wolf. Inside the cabin, Ronan shot upright, bare chest slick with sweat. The air shifted. Something was wrong. His nose twitched, he smelled it. The sharp, bitter scent of arrival. A trespasser. His wolf lunged inside him. Emma burst through the door. "There's something out there." "I know." He was already on his feet. She froze. His eyes were glowing again fully now. Not just reflecting the light, but emanating it. Silver fire. His jaw clenched, muscles twitching beneath his skin. And then before her eyes, he changed. It wasn't a full shift. Not yet. But his bones cracked, spine flexing with unnatural power. Fur ghosted over his arms before retreating. His canines lengthened, eyes wild. For a heartbeat, he stood in that impossible, dangerous middle state. Man and beast, Emma backed into the wall, breath caught. He turned toward her, chest heaving. "Don't run." She didn't. He saw the fear in her eyes, yes, but also something else. Belief. She wasn't screaming, wasn't crying. Her hands were shaking, but she was still there with him. He forced the shift back, skin over bone, human once more. The effort made him stagger. Emma ran to him instinctively. "You're hurt." He grabbed her wrist, not hard, but firm. His voice was gravel. "I need to go out there. Stay inside, no matter what you hear. Wait, what was that thing? Another wolf, but not like me. He met her eyes, and something in his gaze made her stomach twist. Fear, rage, possession. He knows you're here now, Ronan said. That changes everything. Without another word, he turned and burst through the door, barefoot and bare-chested, vanishing into the woods. Emma stood in the silence he left behind, chest heaving, fingers trembling. She looked down at her wrist where his hand had held hers. Still warm, still tingling. Wolf. The word tasted strange in her mouth. But somehow she already knew it was true. And somewhere deep in her gut, a terrible realization bloomed. This wasn't just a man with secrets. This was something ancient, dangerous, fated, and now whatever hunted him knew she existed. Chapter 5. 2 lines and a howl. Emma stood in her tiny bathroom, staring down at the stick in her shaking hand. The old bulb above the mirror buzzed overhead, flickering like it might give out entirely. Everything felt distant, muted. Her heart thudded loud and slow. 2 pink lines. The air left her lungs in one broken breath. No, she whispered. But the evidence was right there, solid, unmoving. She backed into the sink, gripping the edge, her legs threatening to give out. Her mind raced, trying to count days, weeks, moments. It had only been once that night when everything had burned too bright to stop. Ronan's skin against hers, his lips like wildfire, his body trembling with restraint until he couldn't hold back. She had felt it then, that something more had passed between them. A spark, a claim. But this, pregnant with his child? Emma stumbled into the living room, still holding the test, as if releasing it would make it less real. The cabin was too quiet, too still. Ronan had left at dawn again, disappearing into the woods without a word. He was gone more and more lately. Every time he returned, he looked more feral, more wild, less man. Her fingers brushed her stomach, the faintest swell just beginning, barely noticeable. But inside there was a storm. She didn't know what kind of life was growing in her. She didn't even know what he truly was. All she knew, washer body had started to change faster than normal. Hot flashes that came at night, dreams filled with golden eyes and running under the moon and wolves. So many wolves watching, waiting. She stood at the window and stared into the trees. The forest had changed. It watched her now like it knew. Birdsong was quieter, the wind more still. Shadows moved in ways they shouldn't. A howl pierced the stillness, low, long, heartbroken. It sent a shiver down her spine. It wasn't Ronan, she could feel it. This howl was different, mourning, searching. She pressed a hand to the glass, instinct tugging at her. Somewhere deep in the woods, something waited. Something connected to her now. Not just Ronan, the child. The forest sensed it. The wolves did too. Suddenly, movement flickered beyond the tree. She squinted. A large black shape shifted between the trees, too tall to be any animal. It paused, head tilting, and for a heartbeat, she saw glowing eyes, amber and cold. Then it vanished. Emma stumbled back, chest tight. Someone else was out there, not watching Ronan, watching her. Night fell like a trap. She locked the doors, lit every candle, sat with a hand over her stomach, whispering promises to a life she hadn't expected, but already couldn't bear to lose. Whoever you are, I'll protect you. A promise made in the dark, a mother's vow. And far away, deep in the wilds, something ancient howled in answer. Chapter 6. The Wolf Shaman's Warning. The knock came just before dawn. 3 soft raps against the old wood of Emma's front door. Measured, deliberate. Not the desperate banging of someone in danger, but the careful arrival of someone who already knew they were expected. Emma sat up on the couch, heart slamming against her ribs. She hadn't slept, not really. She'd kept a knife under her pillow and one hand on her belly all night. Her instincts had been crawling ever since she saw that figure in the woods. She padded to the door barefoot, hesitant. Quietly, she reached for the iron fireplace poker and slid it behind her back. Then she opened it. A woman stood on the porch, small and cloaked in a deep gray shawl. Her face was lined with age, but her dark eyes burned with fierce clarity. In her hand, she held a carved wooden staff crowned with twisted bone and feather. "I've come for the child," the woman said. Emma's throat dried. "What child?" The woman smiled gently, sadly. "The one you carry, girl. The one the stars whispered about. The one the wolves already bow to." Emma stepped back, defensive. Who are you? I am Mora, daughter of the wind and seer of the shifting bloodlines, the woman said, stepping inside without invitation. Her voice was smooth and echoing like it had traveled through generations. The forest called me here. Your womb sings a prophecy older than time. Emma closed the door, locking it again. Mora gazed around the cabin, then settled on Emma with quiet reverence. You are the mate of the Red Fang heir. Emma's lips parted. Ronan. Mora nodded. His true name has power. He should not have given it to you yet unless the bond is fully sealed. Emma flushed, heart pounding. He doesn't remember much. He barely speaks of himself because he carries the shame of exile and the weight of fate. His bloodline was hunted to extinction after the betrayal of his father. The rogue Alpha Kyle seeks the heir, and you carry not just Ronan's child, but the future Alpha the Pax will follow. Emma took a shaky breath and sank into a chair. No, this can't be real. I'm just a waitress, a girl in a cabin. I'm not part of any prophecy. You are now. Mora knelt before her and placed a hand gently on Emma's stomach. The child inside you is already awakening things that have slept for centuries. The wolves gather, the old ways stir, and the rogue Alpha knows. He watches you. Emma shivered. I saw something, a man in the trees. That was not a man, Mora said softly. That was one of Kale's shadows. He seeks the child. If you stay here, he will come for you. Emma's pulse raced. So what do I do? Mora stood, her expression solemn. You must run before the blood moon rises. Find Ronan before Kale finds you. As the seer turned to leave, she paused at the door. The child you carry will be a unifier, a storm, a crown, but only if you survive. And with that, she vanished into the mist as quietly as she had come. Emma stood frozen, her arms wrapped around herself, the fire crackling behind her. Outside in the cold dawn, the forest waited. So did the war. Chapter 7. Memory and Moonlight. The wind howled through the trees like a living thing, carrying with it a scent Ronan hadn't smelled in years. Bloodroot and ash, the signature of his enemy, of Kale. He stood in the clearing, shirtless, chest heaving, the moonlight painting pale silver across his skin. His claws had begun to push through. His wolf was surfacing, and it wasn't just the moon calling him. This time it was the truth. He staggered back against a tree, a groan ripping from his throat. A 1,000 memories surged through his skull like lightning. Images flickered in rapid-fire flashes. A throne of bone, a fire-lit council chamber screaming. His father's eyes gone dim. His mother's dying words whispered beneath a blood moon. Run, Ronan. They want your bloodline gone. He had been alpha heir of the Red Fang pack, until betrayal had torn his world apart. Until Kale, his father's once loyal beta, had seized power and ordered his death. Ronan sank to his knees, fists digging into the earth. He had hidden in the wilds for months, suppressing his wolf, forgetting himself out of necessity. Because remembering meant pain, remembering meant responsibility. But now the scent of her was mixed in everything. Emma, his mate, and something else, fainter but undeniable. A second heartbeat, he froze. The wind shifted again. His breath hitched. No, it can't be. But it was. His wolf howled inside him, wild with elation and panic. Emma wasn't just his mate. She was carrying his heir. Ronan shifted, his wolf breaking free, powerful and sleek, silver-furred and glowing beneath the moonlight. He ran faster than he ever had, tearing through brush roots and fog. The bond between them had grown stronger while he was gone. He could feel her now. Every pulse, every fear. She was terrified. And not just of him. Something hunted her. And that something wore Kale's scent. When he broke through the trees and caught sight of the cabin, every instinct screamed. Wards had been drawn in ash around the property. Old magic, wolf magic, a warning hastily placed. The scent of Emma's fear hung thick in the air, and worse. So did the scent of a shadow wolf. One of Kale's elite trackers had been here. Too close, too soon. Ronan shifted back mid-stride, skin steaming as the transformation burned off his fury. He stumbled onto the porch, pounding on the door. Emma, he roared. It's me, open up. She swung the door open with wide eyes already pulling him inside. Her hands were trembling. I know, she whispered before he could speak. I know who you are now. Their eyes met, and it was as if themate bond clicked into place fully for the first time. A magnetic force surged between them. Deep final binding. Ronan cupped her face, breathing hard. You're pregnant. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. You knew? I felt it. I feel everything now. He pulled her against him, holding her like he might never get the chance again. She let herself fall into his embrace. Firmament fragile and electric, but peace was not theirs. Not yet. Emma pulled back. Kale's already looking for us. A woman came, a shaman. She said, "We have to run before the blood moon rises." Ronan's jaw clenched. "Then we leave tonight." "But where?" "There's only one place we'll be safe." His eyes darkened with determination. "The Red Fang ruins. My father's ancestral grounds. He'll never expect me to return there." A beat of silence passed between them. "You're not running alone anymore, Emma," he said, his voice low and fierce. "We run together, and we don't stop until our child is safe." Outside, the moon rose higher, tinged red at the edges. And far off in Thedistance, Kale stood at the edge of the forest, watching, smiling. The game had begun. Chapter 8. The enemy marks her. The morning light filtered through the trees like stained glass, golden and deceptive. Emma sat on the cabin's back steps, a blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. The world felt still, but she knew better now. Stillness was not safety. It was the pause before the strike. Ronan hadn't returned from his scouting run. He'd gone to check the perimeter, promising to be gone only minutes. That had been almost an hour ago. Her nerves buzzed. She didn't hear the footsteps. She only felt them. The tremor in the earth, the sharp bite of presence not meant for this place. When she looked up, her breath caught. A shape stood just inside the treine. Tall, shadowed, dressed in black. He didn't move, didn't speak, but she knew he was here for her. Emma stood slowly, every instinct telling her Tauren, but her feet stayed rooted. Her wolf, not her own, but the echo of Ronan's through their bond, howled inside her, urging her to flee, to protect the child. She took a step back. The man tilted his head and something shimmered in the air. A low growling snarl, inhuman and guttural, slithering across her skin like ice. And then she saw it. At his feet, a mark carved into the earth, a symbol, ancient and jagged. 3 claw marks through a crescent moon. It burned into the soil as she watched. She gasped. A pulse of heat flared across her belly, her child responding. She turned and ran. Ronan burst through the trees, shifted mid-sprint. Silver fur star with dirt and blood. His wolf snarled as he skidded to a stop in front of the marked ground. Too late. The shadow man was gone, but the scent remained. Thick, acidic. Kyle's scent. Ronan shifted back, panting hard. His bones cracked into place as he dropped to one knee beside the clawed symbol. His fingers brushed the scorched soil. Emma stumbled into the clearing behind him, chest heaving. "He was here," she gasped. He didn't speak. He just stood there like he wanted me to know. Ronan stood slowly, jaw clenched, eyes glowing. "He marked you?" Emma blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means he said voice like thunder that he doesn't plan to wait anymore." They left that night. No time for packing. No time for goodbyes. Only the child, themate bond, the forest at their backs. Ronan led them deep into the wilderness, following the rivers that ran through the old territories. The trees grew thicker, the silence heavier. Somewhere far behind them, wolves howled, but they didn't sound like Ronan's kind. They sounded wrong. Emma walked beside him, her fingers twined with his, her breath visible in the chill air. "I'm scared," she whispered. He stopped, turned to face her fully. "I am too," he admitted, then placed a hand on her belly. "But you're not alone. Not ever again." She leaned into him, pressing her cheek against his chest, listening to the heartbeat that calmed her better than any words. But just beyond the ridge, Kale watched from the shadows. Hesmiled. "They always run," he said to the wolves beside him. "Let them. It only makes the hunt sweeter." Chapter 9. The Edge of Trust. The ruins of the Red Fang estate rose like a memory carved in stone, half swallowed by vines and moss, nestled deep within a hidden valley. The once mighty stronghold of the northern bloodline now lay broken, a hushed graveyard of legacy and lost honor. Emma stepped carefully through the crumbling archway, her breath caught between awe and unease. Ancient carvings lined the mossy stones, wolves in mid-howl, moons in phases, trees twisted into sigils she couldn't decipher. The energy of the place pulsed faintly through her bones like a heartbeat under the earth. Ronan moved beside her in silence, his eyes scanning every shadow. But it wasn't danger he feared here. It was memory. "This was your home?" she asked softly. He gave a slow nod, his voice a rasp. "What's left of it?" They entered the main hall, or what remained of it. Ivy climbed through shattered stained glass, casting colored light over stone floors and a collapsed throne at the far end. The air smelled of dust, pine, and something older, something sacred. Ronan turned slowly, taking it in. My father ruled here. My mother gave birth to me in the moon chamber just below. Emma touched his arm gently. Why did you never come back before now? He paused. Because I thought it would destroy me. They made camp in the hollow near what had once been the hearth. Ronan built a small fire from dry wood he'd stashed in secret places long ago. He remembered every stone, every hidden cache. As night fell, the two of them sat close, the fire casting flickering shadows across their faces. Emma looked at him. Tell me everything. Ronan met her gaze. He saw no judgment in her eyes, only strength and the fierce light of a woman who had walked into the storm beside him. So he told her of the betrayal, of Cale's lies, of the slaughter of his pack, the exile, the years spent hiding from himself and what he was, the fear that his return would bring only more death. And finally, of the first moment he saw her. I was half-starved, delirious, barely holding on to my human form. And then there you were, kind, warm. You didn't look at me like a monster. You looked at me like a man. Emma blinked hard, her fingers tightening on his. Because that's what you are, a man. A good one. He exhaled, shoulders trembling. I don't know how to protect you or the baby. I'm still broken. She reached for his face, cradling it in her palms. We're all broken, Ronan, but that doesn't mean we're unworthy of love. Then she leaned in. Their lips met gently at first, then deeper, needier. The kiss wasn't wild like before. It was slow, reverent, acclaiming not just of bodies, but of hearts. The fire crackled as they pressed together on the furs, her body curling against his, safe and warm in the ruins of his past. Outside, the moon rose full and heavy. Inside, a bond was sealed, not by the heat of instinct alone, but by trust, by choice, by love. Their mate bond, long simmering, snapped into place, a golden tether therming between them. Emma gasped, her eyes glowing faintly as the magic of it surged through her chest. Ronan's wolf stirred beneath his skin, not to fight, but to submit, to her, to them, to destiny. Far across the land, Cale woke in a cold fury, his connection to the bloodline flaring with a warning. She's sealed the bond, he growled. His wolves cowered as he stood. Then wet tack before it strengthens, before the child quickens, before he reclaims what I stole. The war had begun. Chapter 10. Blood on Sacred Ground. The dawn mist clung low over the Red Fang ruins like a breath held too long. Ronan's senses tingled, muscles coiled, eyes alert as he prowled the perimeter. Something wasn't right. No birdsong, no wind, too quiet. He returned to the hall where Emma slept beneath the broken skylight, curled in a nest of fur and moss. The golden glow of their bond still shimmered faintly between them, wrapping her in an aura even his wolf recognized as sacred. He reached out to touch her cheek, then froze. The wards had been broken. Before he could speak, a snarl echoed from the shadows, and then they were on him. 3 figures burst from the dark, tall, live, and cloaked in Cale's blood oath markings. Shadow wolves, his most loyal assassins. Ronan shifted mid-lunge, teeth bared, claws flashing. His silver wolf collided with the first attacker, slamming them into a pillar. Stone cracked, bone snapped. A howl of agony echoed, but more came. Emma gasped awake to the sounds of growling and chaos. She scrambled to her feet just as one of the wolves lunged for her. Instinct flared. She raised her hand and a sudden pulse of light burst from her skin. It struck the creature midair, throwing it back like it had been blasted by a force of nature. She stared at her own hand. What was that? The third wolf, older and cloaked in ritual paint, hissed. The Sears line, it lives in her. Ronan, still mid-battle, snarled, She's more than that. She's mine. He tore into the last wolf. The fight brutal and fast, blood soaking into the ancient stone. But it was Emma, eyes glowing faint gold now, hands trembling with new power, who struck the final blow. Her scream shattered the stillness as another pulse of energy blasted from her body, knocking the surviving tracker to the ground. His limbs spasmed, eyes wide with terror before he fled. The remaining wolves scattered. The silence returned, but not the same kind. This one trembled with truth. Ronan shifted back, staggering toward her. What was that? I don't know, Emma said, clutching her stomach. It just happened. When I saw them coming for the baby, he placed both hands on her shoulders, searching her face. You're not just carrying an heir, you're something else entirely. She nodded slowly. The shaman. She said I had blood older than wolves. My grandmother was one of the last moonseers. Ronan's eyes widened. Moonseers? That bloodline was thought extinct after the blood moon purge. Emma touched the scars on his shoulder gently. Maybe fate kept one alive. Far across the ruins, a dying tracker crawled toward the trees, whispering to the shadows. A dark figure appeared. Kale, he crouched beside the broken assassin. Is she marked? Yes, the wolf gasped. And more. The moon blood? She holds it. Kale's grin was all teeth. Then we take her alive. He looked to the red moon rising behind the mountains, and we bleed the prophecy from her womb. Chapter 11. Rally the Lost Pack. The wind howled over the cliffs of Hyang Ridge, carrying the scent of old blood and bitter memories. Ronan led the way, his gait steady but tense. Beside him, Emma kept pace, hood drawn over her face. Her every step heavy with growing life and purpose. Before them, a massive stone gate loomed out of the mist, etched with claw runes and guarded by wolves in humanoid form. Their yellow eyes narrowed as Ronan approached, but they didn't raise their weapons. Not yet, a younger warrior stepped forward. Name yourself. Ronan dropped his hood. Ronan Redfang, son of Idris, heir of the northern bloodline. The guards stiffened. One of them cursed under his breath. I thought you were dead. I was, Ronan said, until fate gave me a reason to come back. Emma stepped beside him, chin lifted, and now we need your help. All of you. Inside the mountain stronghold, a council gathered. Half-hifted wolves, old shamans, and fierce young warriors sat in a half-moon chamber where the fire pit burned blue with moonstone ash. Ronan stood at the center, Emma beside him. Her hand remained on her belly as if drawing strength from the heartbeat within. Kyle has returned. Ronan said he's no longer hiding in the wilds. He's building an army. Rogues, ferals, shadows. He's marked my mate and hunts our unborn child. Murmurs broke out. Suspicion, fear. A scarred woman with a high alpha's bearing stood. And why should we follow a broken prince with no pack and a human girl? Emma's spine straightened. I'm not just human, she said, voice calm but firm. I carry moon blood, and the child you carry was foretold by your own seer. One of the elders leaned forward. Yuli, Ronan growled. Watch your tongue. No, Emma said, lifting her hand. A pulse of silvery light flared in her palm, brief but unmistakable. The fire dimmed in response. The air trembled. The room fell into stunned silence. Then the elder whispered, Moon Seer's light. The alpha woman stepped forward, gaze narrowing at Emma's belly. If the prophecy is true, then that child is the uniter of the clans. The end of Kale's blood war. And the beginning of a new reign, another murmured. Or, someone else growled, a tool that could be used to control us all. A warrior with gray streaks in his hair stood. You ask us to follow you into war, Ronan, to rise from exile. Why now? Because there's no more time. Ronan said Kale will strike under the blood moon. If we wait, we die. One by one, forgotten. Emma stepped forward, voice low but clear. But if we stand together, we don't just survive. We win, she paused, letting her eyes sweep the chamber. You've waited too long for someone to come save you. That someone is already inside you. You just forgot how to howl. The silence that followed cracked under the weight of truth. Then the eldest shaman spoke. Bring out the fangstone, gasps echoed. A ceremonial dagger carved from ancient moon rock was placed in the center of the chamber. The test. If your bond is true, if your child is destined, your blood will open the gate to the Wolfern path. Emma reached for it. Ronan caught her wrist. Are you sure? She met his eyes. If this is the only way to win your people, I have to be. Their fingers intertwined over the blade, and they cut together. The blood that dripped wasn't red. It was silver. The fangstone glowed, and across the room, the moon emblem on the chamber wall rumbled open, revealing a tunnel of light and stardust. The shaman dropped to his knees. She is the Luna's chosen. Ronan turned to the pack. You followed fear for too long. Now follow me and fight. The mountain trembled as 1,000 wolves howled in unison. Chapter 12. The Pact of Fire and Fang. The night before battle always felt too still, like the world held its breath, afraid to whisper, lest it wake death too soon. Emma sat near the edge of the cliff, wrapped in Ronan's cloak, watching the moon rise over the darkened forest below. Behind her, Haifang Ridge burned with activity. Armor forged, scouts dispatched, Final rituals whispered over weapons blessed by moonblood and steel. But here, in this solitary place above the fray, the world felt distant, quiet, and she needed that quiet. Ronan approached from behind, his steps silent even on gravel. He didn't speak, only lowered himself beside her, his warmth easing into the fabric between them. Emma leaned into his shoulder without hesitation. "They believe in you now." "No," he said softly. "They believe in us?" She smiled faintly. "Feels strange. I used to be invisible. Now I'm the mother of a prophecy." "You are never invisible, Tome." She turned to look at him. The wind tugged at his hair, silver in the moonlight. His eyes always sharp, now softened with something deeper than desire. Devotion, reverence, fear, too. The kind born of loving something too much to lose. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of the battle, not even of dying, but of failing, of not being enough." He took her hands in his, pressing a kiss to each knuckle. "You are more than enough. You're everything. You made me remember who I am." Emma's throat tightened. "I don't want to raise this child without you." "You won't," Ronan said. "Even if I fall, I'll protect you in every shadow, with every howl. You are my mate, Emma. You carry my soul inside you." The wind picked up, the moon crested high, and somewhere down below, a long howl echoed into the night. One of their scouts returning with news. Urgent, sharp. The time had come. Ronan stood, then reached down to pull her to her feet. "Come," he said. "They're waiting." Emma followed, her cloak trailing behind like wings. As they descended toward the campfires below, the warriors quieted. Some bowed their heads, others simply watched, not just at Ronan, at her. She was no longer the outsider. She was the Luna, and her child was the future they would bleed for. Later that night around the central fire, the packs gathered for the ancient rite, the pact of fire and fang, blades dipped in wolf's bane, oaths sworn in blood, claws etched into stone. It was not just ceremony, it was war. Ronan stood in the center, Emma at his side, belly round with the promise of the next age. "We howl not for death," he declared, "but for life." The wolves howled in reply. 1,000 voices, one final cry before the moon turned red. Chapter 13. Battle of Blood and Light. The blood moon rose, heavy, swollen, and red as freshly spilled war. Its light bled over Hyang Ridge, turning the mountains into a kingdom of shadow and flame. Emma stood in the watchtower, the icy wind whipping her cloak around her like dark wings. Below, the allied packs formed ranks. Wolves and warriors, witches and seers, all unified under Ronan's command. She placed a hand on her belly. The baby stirred, sensing what was coming. "Stay strong, little one," she whispered. "We fight for you tonight." A distant horn cut through the silence. Then another. Then came the howls. From the trees below, Kale's army surged forth like a tide of darkness. Feral wolves twisted by rage. Shadow-bound witches, rogue vampires, and mercenaries from the outlaw clans. The earth itself seemed to tremble beneath their march. At the cliff's edge, Ronan stood armored in obsidian leather, marked with the red fang sigil. The moon reflected in his eyes, not wild, but ready. He turned to his commanders. "Hold the ridge. Do not break. The child lives, and with it the future." Then he shifted. His wolf exploded into form. Taller than any others, silver-ass Stormlight, eyes glowing with power. The Alpha reborn. His howl rang out across the ridge, deep, commanding, filled with both fury and hope. The packs shifted around him one by one until the entire mountain answered in a storm of fur and teeth. The war had begun. The clash was instant. Funks met steel. Spells lit the air. Screams echoed off the rocks. The scent of blood filled every breath. Emma stood in the inner sanctum, surrounded by spellcasters protecting the Luna and unborn heir. But when a blast shattered the warding circle, she stepped forward, eyes glowing, heart steady. A shadow beast charged toward her. 8 FT tall, born of Kale's dark rituals. The other witches faltered. Emma raised her hand. A beam of pure silver light exploded from her palm, slicing through the creature like moonfire through mist. It screamed and crumbled into ash. Behind her, the spellcasters stared. "She's not just Luna," one whispered. "She's a seer reborn." Elsewhere, Ronan fought through enemy after enemy, but his focus was Kale. Only Kale. And then he saw him. Dark armor, slick with blood, eyes burning with madness. He stood above a ridge, casting a death curse over the valley. Ronan charged, fur flying, claws outstretched. Kyle turned, and the brothers met midair in a collision of power, history, and hate. They tumbled into the dust, snarling, slashing, old pain spilling like fresh wounds. "You were never worthy," Kyle roared. "You were never alpha," Ronan thundered. The fight raged, brutal and unrelenting, each blow fueled by years of betrayal. Back in the sanctum, Emma fell to one knee, pain lancing through her, her vision blurred, her body arching as the baby kicked hard. Sensing Ronan's peril, "No," she gasped. "Not now, not yet." And then she saw it. A vision, a prophecy, Kale standing over Ronan's body. Blood, the future lost. Unless her power flared, blinding, uncontainable. Emma's voice echoed across the battlefield, amplified by magic and fury. "Ronan." The moment he heard her, Ronan looked up, his body broken, Kale's blade raised above his heart. Emma stood at the top of the ridge, light pouring from her, hands outstretched. The moonlight itself bent toward her. Her voice shattered the air. "You will not take him." With a roar, she unleashed everything. A shockwave of silver fire erupted from her body, striking Kyle square in the chest. He screamed louder than any creature had screamed in 1,000 years. As the light ripped through every dark spell, every stolen power, every lie, and then silence. Kale's body disintegrated into dust, carried away on the wind. Ronan collapsed, barely conscious. Emma ran to him, falling to her knees beside his battered form. His eyes opened. "You," glowed. She laughed, crying and kissing his forehead. "You stubborn wolf. Don't you ever leave me again." "I won't," he whispered. "Not now. Not ever." Around them, the enemy forces fled. Broken, scattered, leaderless. The war was won, but the real miracle. Emma clutched her belly as a soft pulse of light flickered from within. The child stirred, calm and safe. Chapter 14, The Dawn of the Luna Age. The smoke of war had faded, but its echoes lingered. Haifang Ridge, once scarred and bloodied, now stood bathed in golden morning light. Snow clung to the peaks. The moon hung pale and thin above the horizon, giving way to a sunrise long waited for. The battlefield was quiet, and at the heart of it all, life was beginning again. Emma lay in a sacred chamber deep beneath the ridge, wrapped in furs and soft linen, the air filled with herbs and warm candlelight. At her side, a newborn cried, strong and fierce, a daughter, tiny, silvery. Her cry carried something strange in its echo, something ancient. "She has your spirit," Ronan whispered from beside her, brushing a kiss against Emma's temple. He looked down at the baby with awe and reverence, the kind of look no alpha had ever worn before. Emma leaned her head against his shoulder, and your eyes and your growl. They laughed softly, though tears traced down Emma's cheek. Exhaustion weighed heavy on her, but so did peace. "She's everything," she whispered. "No," Ronan murmured, curling his hand around hers. "You are." Above them, the wolves of the allied packs gathered once more. This time not for war, but for the coronation of a new era. The ancient dais had been rebuilt, standing tall beneath the open sky. Every pack sent their emissaries. Even the most reclusive witches lit candles for the newborn Luna heir. The air shimmered with magic. When Ronan stepped onto the dais, cradling his daughter in one arm and Emma at his side, the crowd bowed in silent unity. He raised his voice, not as a warlord, but as a father, a mate, an alpha transformed. "No more will we fight to rule," he declared. "From this day forward, we lead to serve." He turned to Emma. "This is my mate, my Luna, my light." He lifted their daughter for all to see. And this is the dawn of the Luna Age. The crowd howled, not in bloodlust, but in hope. Wolves, witches, even vampires joined the ancient cry. A new world had begun. That night, when the fires burned low and the baby slept between them, Emma and Ronan stood at the edge of the cliff where it all began. Stars stretched overhead. The forest below glittered with life again. Ronan wrapped his arms around her from behind, pressing his cheek to hers. "Do you ever think about how it started?" Emma asked. He smiled into her skin. "You brought home a wounded stranger. You were a mess. You were mercy." A long silence fell between them, comfortable, filled with soft wind and heartbeat. Then he said, "You saved me, Emma." She turned, resting her forehead against his. "We saved each other." And as the moon rose once more, no longer red, but silver and whole, the Alpha and his Luna stood with the child of prophecy between them. 3 hearts beating as one. The past was behind them. The war was over. But their love story, it was just beginning. Thank you so much for staying with us till the end. We'll love to know how far this story has traveled. Drop in the comments the part of the world you are enjoying this story. The end. Thank you. If you enjoyed listening to this story, please hit the like button, share it with someone who'd love this, and subscribe to Nightbond Narratives and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Tell me in the comments below which part of the world you are watching from. Also, tell me which part of the story you like the most. Compilation of a video of an audiobook takes a lot of time and effort. So, if you see any ambiguity, please ignore it. I hope you will appreciate my effort.